Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today we have to talk about this slouching towards the blue pill, license to simp that is emerging from the passport bro and geomaxing communities. Now, I've advocated going overseas, so I'm not throwing shade on the broader concepts. At the same time, there's some very dangerous mentalities and outlooks that we're starting to see, and of course, the marketers have no reason to clamp down on them because it serves their own interests. Just as a quick aside, I think the idea of the passport being a status is it gives me a chuckle because, I've had a passport since I was 5 years old. I've been overseas multiple times. It's like, okay, you have a passport. But maybe it's an origin in like a lower income community where maybe they see a Chinese made sports shoe. Oh, wow, look at high status, or this jacket, or you have a passport. Well, sure. If you can pay the fee, fill out the application, and go for your appointment for a picture, you got a passport, assuming there's no legal barrier to you leaving. But what's going to be the next thing? Oh, you got to lose weight. You got to be a Miralax bro. At any rate, let's get a better sense of where this all originates. The dominion of being a expat, sex tourist was traditionally subpar white dudes, short, balding. They want a better opportunity, so they go and get some mail order bride, or they just pay for it overseas. And oftentimes they get finessed by these women because they don't have any appreciation for the culture or the language, customs, that sort of thing. During the period where the heyday of the PUAs, it was also popular because most of these dudes couldn't use games successfully in the Western world, so they had to go to basically third world countries. And they said, oh yeah, I've got game now, I bang these women. Well, really it's just an economic imbalance, if nothing else. Certain countries are richer, more powerful, they have more distribution of resources and rights to women. Other countries which maybe were colonized or just didn't quite rise to the global stage, they the women might have rights on paper, but they'd be less enforced. Women have less resources, and it's therefore harder to enforce those rights. You can get a sense of how it works just looking at go to Dominican Republic, put yourself on Tinder, and then try the same thing in Puerto Rico. Pretty much guarantee you'll get better results in Dominican Republic, especially if you clearly state that you're American, because a Dominican woman doesn't have U.S. citizenship. So they have less opportunities overall, unless they're part of the Dominican elite. And that is very much the case. So I know you guys want to believe, oh, no, that's not true, but a lot of it is. It's about status. It's about can you give them a green card, or can you give them more money? A funny aspect, too, because we hear all this stuff about their traditional cultures. And like with these Orthodox bros, many of them have this mentality. You got to listen to this dude who's half Armenian and Iranian, Rush V. And then you join the Russian church outside of Russia, even if you have no Russian ancestry. And you find a traditional Filipino woman. You set up a homestead in West Virginia. And that's how you fight globalism, by basically being a globalist, a cosmopolitan type. Yeah, so that's amusing in of itself. But going to this concept of the traditional societies, traditional cultures, this LARPing meme, you could say the Philippines is traditional. And yet the Philippines has a huge drug trafficking industry, sex and human trafficking. Yes, indeed, there are women who are raised Christian or Muslim, but if they have a need, they can't eat otherwise, or other jobs are just not that good, they might sell their body. That's the reality. It's the resource imbalance, plain and simple. And I'm not even saying the imbalance like, oh, it has to be balanced. I'm just trying to give you a sense of how things are skewed by how much money you have and opportunities that are available to you. The other aspect, if you're talking about these women being conservative and traditional, well, if she's willing to leave her country to be with a foreigner, now maybe you'll stay there, but still, your resources will be different from what she probably would have gotten unless she made it big with a rich Filipino person. She might have to learn a new language. She might change her religion if you're Eastern Orthodox and she's Catholic. And probably most importantly, she will be marrying outside of her own kind, a white or black American, let's just say. That's definitely calls into question whether she's really traditional and conservative. Unless you mean that, oh, all the Filipino men are these soy liberals, so she needs a conservative man from the US. No, your idea of conservatism and traditionalism is like a mass market artificial version. because her behavior is not really respecting where she comes from in a lot of regards. If you want to go and do that, it's fine. I'm just trying to give you a sense of what's actually going on as opposed to all the stuff that they stick in your head to delude you. And just think about it. I think this mindset at some level goes back to what, the Boxer Rebellion, or maybe post World War II. You know, Japan, in the case of the latter, they were this feudalistic, imperialistic society. They lost the war, and then a lot of their women started marrying the Americans because, yeah, there were probably a shortage of men in Japan, but you also had Japanese men that didn't have the same resources as these conquerors. So are those traditional women that are willing to join the conquerors? It just is it's a good way to kind of take yourself out of that over the top high adrenaline. Oh yeah, my viewpoint is perfect, and you realize, okay, there's more to this. It's understandable when you take the emotions and the excessively delusional aspirations out of the picture. So let's take a look here. This is very informative. A guy's Tinder results. You have the land whale being supported by a tree, and then you got the Asian girl. And he started dating the Asian girl, and now they're expecting their first child, but he doesn't say if they're married. I wonder if that means that they just hooked up and she got pregnant, which isn't very traditional, I'm afraid. Here we have a Mayo cell. I'm in Southeast Asia right now. From Canada, I can't stress how completely different dating is. It's no joke. Women are more attractive, less picky, happier, sweet, and polite. They're respectful. Yeah. I don't get the slightest acknowledgement despite being a top earner at home. This is very important for what we'll talk about at the end of the video. And people who think these women just want money or an easy exit, it's not true. They're hard workers, have their own jobs. Never ask about your finances. Tell that to all the guys who came home with Vietnamese women, with an Eastern woman. They got divorced. Yes, exactly. You don't bring them back to the West. Okay, well, this guy's keeping it real, so it's not that everyone's delusional in this comment section. Chinese, first question is how much money you make and what job. Right, Asian culture is very status conscious. They want to know what you're doing. Yeah, they're obsessed with women. And this guy, this is 100% joke or LARP. I've lived and worked highest echelons of the finance sector. Women are average 5 supermodels. They all ask, what do you do? How much money do you make? And do you live here in the West? So yeah, they might have a better presentation, but that doesn't change who they are fundamentally, right? We hear female nature is universal, but a lot of these guys, these very naive passport bros, want to believe that women are different over there. They're not the same. They have a totally different biology or something. Come on, dude. This is why if you go and work as like a English language teacher, you might be able to bang some of the locals, but the idea that you're going to be high value from their standpoint, Asian people send the best and brightest to the West to get Ivy League degrees and get good jobs. And you're a guy that couldn't make it in any career field, so now you just take advantage of the fact that you were born in an English-speaking country to teach English. Do you really think that you're high value? So unless some woman is loaded in Japan or the Philippines and she just wants a certain phenotype because she has like a fetish, you're not a high value male. And it's not that she doesn't care about resources. It's just probably that you're not getting the type of woman you think you are, or they have ulterior motives. So this is just stuff that's important to recognize. If you got a traditional Asian woman, she isn't going to divorce you. It's the culture pretty much considered shameful to be divorced, especially if she got parents in her life. She's on Tinder, though. And if she's traditional, she wouldn't be single at 29 or on Tinder. Yeah, they know what's up. But you see, these delusional clowns just want to believe the fantasy. I've had Mayo cells rage pill in my comment section. Guys who had never been overseas rage pill because I offended the honor of their imaginary fantasy traditional Asian woman in a kimono that, does everything they say and never betrays them. I mean, dude, wake up. Just wake up. No one's trying to be rude to you. Just wake up and smell the coffee. If she was traditional, she wouldn't marry you in the first place. Yes, like we just talked about. This guy points out they have a male surplus. That's true. We talked about it in the Black Pill book. If you have more men or there's a close gender ratio, women tend to be pickier. So that's like, if you want to break it down, take all the emotion out, take all the stupid like posturing and red pill stuff, that's the reality, supply and demand. And how is it not at some level hypergamy if she's, discriminating against men, let's say a working class or lower middle class Filipino to be with some American? Why is that not, hypergamy? But these guys will, in a lot of these videos we're going to see, the guys are like, oh, no, there's no hypergamy. They're not, they're different. They're special. As soon as she gets the rest of her family over here, gets him take a second on his house or a nail salon in her name only, she's going to take half his assets and say, see ya. And these guys, again, yeah, I've seen this happen. He responds, I'm so tired of you Simpson cocks. Happens less than white women betrayal. Which is funny. It seems every race is like, at some level, has derision for their own group, even if they're protective from a tribalist standpoint. So white men will say that white women are bad, you should go for Asian women. Black men will say that black women are bad, go for white women. Asian and Indian men are always complaining about their women not paying attention to them. And then Brother Amr Metwali has discussed how a lot of Arab Muslim women are hijabis. So I don't know what that is. Maybe it's how good looking you are in your own racial group. Like, do you get attention from the decent ones? Then you maybe have a more positive view. Who can say? Now, I thought this was interesting. I thought that Chronic was all about the white Aryan virgin. I wonder if he's pivoting to Asian women because, as a lot of right-wing guys realize, the option just isn't there in the West, unless you, maybe if you try like the Mennonites, or I guess you could try Eastern Europe, but it would be interesting to see. All right, and now we get to one of the main points I wanted to make in the video, which is that obviously traditionally Mayo sells, but I'm seeing a lot of, perhaps you are a collard green cell, perhaps you are a Clarence, and a lot of them are starting to buy into the same delusions of the Mayo cells because they're being told what they want to hear. This is a channel that's blowing up. Now, I told you guys a long time ago, women are paying attention. I know, again, if you have that kind of colonial overlord mindset, you think that these women in third world countries, they don't have internet, they don't have smartphones, they don't know about the manosphere. Nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. They are paying attention and they are marketing their ways to be more attractive to men. And how can they hook a guy? You got to listen to what men are saying and talking about on the internet.com. Hell, even in the Western world, don't you have that Roma army covered in tattoos, and she's making, what was it, $8 or $10 or $12,000 a month in donations? Unless the government's spending that, it ain't all the women. You see, this is the problem in manosphere. They say, oh, well, these women can't make money. They live on welfare. Oh, the men, the red pill men in stemmer trades. Well, then who's funding these women? Unless the government's cutting them checks, it's got to be these simps in the West. Because they just want validation. They want a woman who tells them what they need to hear, or they desire to hear, and then they'll start opening the checkbook. But this girl is very intelligent. She's probably higher IQ than most people in the manosphere. Filipina P. And usually she's got the nice long traditional hair. Usually she's in a trad dress and nice comportment, almost like a hostess at an exotic resort. And she's here to tell you about why you should go to the Philippines or Southeast Asia. Gentlemen, if you're going to the Philippines looking for a soulmate, my recommendation is that you make a point to stay there at least a month. No, a lot longer than a month if you're going to get married. Here's probably a Mayo cell. I'm bold, bearded, tattooed, muscular, chubby, short for an American man. I live on a meager income, but I love the Philippines. Should I be so lucky as to find a compatible Filipino partner, I'd be wearing a perpetual smile. Yep. Every time I need a confidence boost to settle my mind and thoughts, or come close to giving up on the Philippine dream, you always manage to post something like this to make me want to keep trying. These girls are very reasonable. Standards regarding men. No selfishness, no hypergamy, no boss queen behavior. They look for a normal 5.6 dude. Oh my god, this is just sad. For the most part, they want a man that respects them, loyal to them, pretty much a family man. It seems as if when you ask those Filipinos questions, it sounds like they never really thought about the physical aspect. It was the intangibles they really wanted. Maybe that connection. This is what I'm saying, right? You take a plane ticket, all of a sudden, all the red pill stuff goes out the window. No longer matters, apparently. I got to give her props. This was a brilliant video to make, escaping the plantation. The plantation, that's already a code word to get the, frustrated Clarences and collard green cells. She's got her nice long hair, trad appearance, and she's playing clips of black women complaining about black men and having unreasonable standards. So this is all like the Kevin Samuel stuff. This is freaking dynamite if you want to get the sissy black manosphereans in here. Highest eviction rate, highest poverty rate, student loan debt. So I guess he's talking about black women here. I'm black. I was called so many names when I traveled to the Philippines to meet my future wife. 10 years later, still married. Purchased her a $500,000 home, and I'm happy. See, and maybe he's correct. And if he is, good on you. That's fantastic. I'm not like some delusional MGTOW psychopath who wants your relationship to fail. But even the way he writes this, a guy might say, I worked hard, I'm successful, I have a nice pad, and I have this girl I like. No, I bought her a $500,000 house. He wants you to know that he got her that, okay? And this speaks to something that Goldberg has been telling you for a long time, which is that at the end of the day, most guys in the manosphere, I don't care who they are failed beta male provider strategists, or they're honestly wannabes. They never got the chance. You remember that guy? Oh, I make a lot of money, but they don't pay attention to me. Exactly, right? I don't care if you're talking about the red pillar, the men grabbing their own willies, the SYSBM, IBMOR, the very dim, poorly lit well where TFM screams himself to sleep every night. These guys, fundamentally, they want to be the simp, okay? That is their just driving desire. It's not the feminism, all that is stuff that they complain about, but ultimately it's the fact that they were not able to be the simp. They wanted to be the guy who goes on Facebook and declares his love and bought her a $20,000 ring, got her a house and a car, and that's why they yearn for that. They're angry because they can't get a hold of it, okay? And women who are paying attention are going to have these nice little marketing schemes. I mean, you saw how she said, get off the plantation, it's a little ironic because, the Philippines has historically been used as a source of cheap, if not slave labor. I mean, even still today, the Arabian Peninsula, the Gulf states, they use Filipinos like basically scum over there to run their economy. And it's just amazing to see all this stuff coming together. But guys who claim to be red pill up and down, oh, don't simp, but all of a sudden they get the opportunity overseas. And what I think is going to happen, especially as so many people are talking about this passport bro and geomaxing, is that you're going to have waves of simps going overseas. And so you say, it's great now. What happens when these guys who are sexually frustrated, who don't have attention from any women in the West or not women they care about, are over there and they're doing what these guys in the comment section are doing? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to inflate the value, and then average women in the Philippines or these other countries are going to expect a lot more from men, and they're going to start being a lot like Western women. And people have already noticed this. They've talked about it. I mean, Korea is a pretty wealthy country. Guys complain about trying to date Korean women because they're more feminist. In fact, I know a Korean guy, he said a lot of Korean men go to the Vietnam for women and Cambodia because they can't stand Korean women. What does that tell you? So this globalism is globalism. Unless you really start changing stuff, it's going to happen. You can still take advantage, you geomax all you want, but just piece of advice, whether you're a Mayo cell, you're a collard green cell, a Clarence, I don't know if anyone else has used this phrase, but if not, I expect royalty payments. One man's prostitute is another man's trad wife. Be very careful. Don't assume just because a woman checks all the boxes and she doesn't have red flags because you don't speak the language or you don't know the culture, you don't know her background, that she's worthy of marrying. Do your research and be cautious, and don't just jump on the first chick who smiles at you and treats you well, because I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a great simp farm that's going on. Now that it's on YouTube, now that it's widespread, it's going to be a wild ride. So stay safe and take care of yourself and use your head. And I mean the head that's encased by a skull, not the other one. Have a great weekend.